you more. May we be guided by you only, Lord, and be inhabited only by you. And we thank you and praise you for our teachers and pastor and the staff, Lord. We pray that you will be with them, be with us. Let us hear the words you want us to hear. In Jesus' name,
Amen. All right. So I sure have missed y'all. I've seen y'all, but I missed coming to Sunday school class. I missed standing up here talking about things I like talking about. But October's always a tough month for me with the fair and all that stuff. So I want to thank Gerald, but he's not here for filling in, and I enjoy listening to Gerald. He's always got some incredible insight. But I want to get back into talking about knowing your enemy.
All right now. Sorry.
About what? Did you do something bad? You're right on time, Donna. We just started. Hey, literally, we just started. You know, I don't know how to be quiet, so it takes a little while to get us going. But knowing your enemy. So today we're going to talk about Baal. Anybody know who Baal is? Anybody ever heard of Baal? So maybe we'll talk about him this week, and next week we'll see. There's a lot to this deity. I know it's kind of like a principality, but so I was looking at it. I don't really know what got me into it. I know back in September, I know we talked about like Aleister Crowley and the effects of him on modern culture. And I can't seem to get away from it. Anything I'm studying, watching, it keeps popping up. So then I like to go from where I'm at and start working backwards. Let's see where do we go in history with this kind of thing. And so scripture I got for today was Numbers 25, 1 through 4. It's kind of weird. I'm using my phone today because I was very intelligent and left my notes on the printer. Anybody ever done something like that? Okay, good. I thought I was the only one. So Numbers 25, 1 through 4 says, while Israel lived in Shittim, the people began to whore with the daughters of Moab. These invited the people to the sacrifices of their God, and the people ate and bowed down to their gods. So Israel yoked themselves to Baal of Peor. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. And the Lord said to Moses, take all the chiefs of the people and hang them in the sun before the Lord, that the fierce anger of the Lord may turn away from Israel. And so with Baal, we start to see where people are making sacrifices. What they sacrificed to Baal was more times than not their children. We get into Jeremiah 19 and 5. And this was a fun one. Jeremiah 19 and 5 says, and have built the high places of Baal to burn their sons in the fire as burnt offerings to Baal, which I did not command or decree, nor did it come into my mind. Okay, so that's kind of that's just the sick thing we're dealing with. Is so when I'm thinking about Baal, where's your mind going? You talk about passing your children through the fire. Well, I mean, modern day thing. What do we do? Like abortion. And so I thought, that's kind of interesting. And what we're going to get into in the next probably next week. So let me just not even talk about that today. I'm gonna let that squirrel run down the trail. I'm not gonna chase it. Man, that was a tough one. So next week we're gonna talk about that. But as we get into things that are happening in our country, where it's opening up, it's basically opening up a worship portal for Baal. And we've been seeing it the last 2 years. It's happened several times in our nation. It's been endorsed by New York City, been in Washington, D.C. And so we'll get into that next week a little bit. But this week I want to kind of give more of a history. Hey, brother.
Hey, what's going on?
And now that he's here, I can say thank you so much, Gerald, for filling in for me for the month of October.
Well, thank you, brother.
You are the man. Move my stuff for Gerald. And if y'all have noticed, when I come into a room, I like to take up the whole room. Sorry, y'all. So I was reading and just doing any kind of research I could find on Baal. And has anybody ever heard of Nimrod? Okay, what can y'all tell me about Nimrod? Anybody got any kind of insight on Nimrod? Tower of Babel. Anything else? I like my pictures.
To me, he's like a depiction of, if you want to say a Satan reincarnated or something like that.
Like a Satan reincarnated.
Yeah, because he pursued world dominance.
World dominance. That's good.
He wanted everything to fall under him for the whole earth.
I like it. And that
he was on his way to doing that.
he was very much on his way, just total world domination.
Right.
And he built the Tower of Babel. We'll get to that one in a second. Was built
Yeah.
kind of in Mesopotamia near the Tigris and Euphrates, what would be modern day Iraq. Back then, the Fertile Crescent. And you might know who he's the great grandson of.
I should know.
That's an easy one, y'all. Come on. Everybody should know that going to this church. Noah is a great grandson of Noah. Um, he was the son of Cush, the son of Ham, the son of Noah. Everybody remember what Ham did? Remember Noah being seen in his nakedness, and then he cursed all the descendants of Ham. Some say that Nimrod he was the first to be a mighty man, a giant. History records him too as what they call a Rephaim, which is the next step down from a Nephilim. He was the god of thunder, god of wind, earthquakes, the harvest. It was basically the god of everything. It's just kind of all wrapped up into one. He was the king of the land of Shinar. He's first to be called the mighty man. The system of worship had its origin in the legend of Nimrod and his wife Semiramis. Anybody ever heard of her? Ishtar. Anybody familiar with Ishtar? Okay, this is when you get into the tradition of Easter that we celebrate. It has its roots back to Ishtar. And so that's one of the things. I ain't telling nobody to not celebrate anything. I'm just telling you where that comes from. But Ishtar, Semiramis, was his mother. Okay, and they got married. Y'all see where the weirdness starts to come in. And so this is where it came in. When I kept researching about Aleister Crowley, and kept going to sexual depravity. And then I start looking, and it goes Baal kept coming up, Baal kept coming up, Baal kept coming up. So I start looking into it, and then Nimrod, who was the original Baal, he married his mother and had a son. And anyway, the worship for him is coming up very soon. It's the winter solstice, and because he's the sun god. Remember when we were talking about Aleister Crowley and his effect with music and modern culture? Remember we talked about Led Zeppelin and the SOL and their guitarist, and his little symbols that he would put on everything with SOL, Soul, the sun god. What was that picture we just had? And we've seen representations of the sun god 000 here in our own culture. See what I mean? And so these are things. So think about this now, and this is how the devil does it. And so, like next week, we're going to talk about things that are in our nation that is like a portal. It's we call it a beacon, like a lighthouse for evil things. Yet back in our early time of our country, 1800s and early 1900s, people come in where they go in at Ellis Island, New York City. They had to pass by that to come into our nation. So what was it telling to people from pagan religions and things like that as they came across? Hey, I have a home here. That's all right. I mean, it's going to be there anyway. You know, I mean, it can't all be stopped. And these would be depictions of Nimrod, and then you got Baal. You got your goat horns and all. I mean, but what they would do, they would pass their children up. The children would then slide out into a fire, and that's how they did it. And that was to keep him happy, so that he wouldn't, that he would bring the harvest and all this stuff, the rain and everything, rather than depending on God. And so what we read in Numbers was that the children of Israel hoard themselves to the nations that worship Baal, and then they began to go with them. And so what I noticed, let me think about this. This was in Numbers. This is right after coming out of Egypt. This is right after God pulled them out of Egypt, parted the Red Sea, all this amazing things they get to see, water coming from rocks, and they still go after the other gods. And that to me is the thing that we have to watch out for. We're told to, we're commanded to love the sinner but hate the sin, right? And so I was watching something the other day, and a guy was he was giving commentary about Lauren Daigle. Everybody knows who Lauren Daigle is, right? Great, man, that woman can sing. And she went on Ellen's TV show, Ellen the Degenerate, and that's what I call her. But anyway, she goes on there and she sings, and but does she break down and sing a worldly song? No, she sings song. He's still rolling stones. He's rolling away this stone, And I thought it was great, but he's breaking it down, just blistering her for going on this program. And I'm going, I see that, but at the same time, she's reaching an audience that she wouldn't otherwise reach. And it made it even better because Ellen said, I don't agree with most anything this girl believes in, but she's in the top 25 on the Billboard chart. I have to have her on. So that was great. But what I like to tell people, even like where we're talking about in Numbers, the Jews, even in Jeremiah, and it happened with Ahab, he went outside of God's will for him and for the nation and started mingling with the unclean thing. And it will begin to take you over, so you have to be careful. So that's why I always tell people that if you keep going, you want to go to the bar to get those people saved, and you want to minister at the liquor joint or whatever it is, you keep going, eventually you're going to take a drink. It's going to happen. I mean, eventually you will succumb to it. Um, did Jesus go eat with sinners and all that? Yes, he did. But that's Jesus. I'm not Jesus. So anyway, that's where I kind of go with that. So with Baal, we kind of have to be careful because there's so many things in modern life that we see with Baal. Man, this is really small font, The system of worship with Baal has its origins in Nimrod and his wife, Ishtar. They rebelled against God just like the father Cush. Eventually, Nimrod was put to death for his evil deeds, and according to the ancient patriarchal system, parts of his body were sent to various cities as a warning. Now think about this. Is this weird? Y'all, I can talk about something different next week, but I like to talk about weird things, okay? Think about like witchcraft, witches and things like that. They like to place stuff, trinkets or whatever. So what better of a way? The devil lost Nimrod to the people of God when they killed him, but what did he do? He sent parts of him throughout. He sends parts of the curse out. And so that way, that gives him an open door to those places. His wife, Ishtar, fled, but spread the rumor that he had ascended to heaven. And that's coming up soon. That's the winter solstice. With him being the sun god, this is where I was going earlier. See, I chased a squirrel. Y'all were supposed to keep me from chasing that squirrel. The sun god, the winter solstice that's the shortest day of the year, right? So that's when they would celebrate. That's when a lot of the sacrificing to Baal would come, because that's when they say he passed away. It's right around the winter solstice time, and he ascended, and that is the rebirth of the sun, because that's your shortest day. From that day forward, the days start to get longer. So the days are getting shorter right now until we get to the winter solstice. Then after that, they start to pick up and go a little further, a little more, a little more. So that's where that's a huge day in witchcraft, just like Halloween is. So when Ishtar later gave birth to a son, she claimed that it was the reincarnation of her deified husband and that he had returned to save the human race. She was later deified too as the mother of the sun god, and it was supposed she had ascended into heaven as the queen of heaven. In the various cultures throughout history and around the world, the same became basic deities and have been worshipped under different names. Now this is fun. So we all kind of, all this stuff, we hear about these things. I like these pictures. I like the pictures of the Nephilim, the Raphaim, things that you're not going to see in history class, but yet you see the size of it compared to the different people. And here's you a picture of Baal. It's got a goat head. It's a man with a goat head. He's killing people. And he's much bigger. He's like twice the size. Anybody ever seen these skulls, elongated skulls? Isn't that amazing? Those are recovered in Egypt. Now, they're recovered all over the world, but you see a lot of the headdresses that the pharaohs of Egypt had. They had the elongated skulls.
Yeah.
Nephilim, Raphaim. It's weird. It's the from the fallen angels. And so that's what they say Nimrod was one of. Let's see here. I love my pictures. Okay. Anybody ever seen this symbol? We're going to get into this in a little bit too. What is that? Anybody know?
With the eye?
With the eye. I have Lucifer, I have Horus, I have Ra, so many different names. But it's you see that a lot in modern culture. You see celebrities and stuff doing their pictures. They're covering an eye. They're whatever they do. Like Goliath with the 6 fingers. Here is Horus. This is a depiction of Horus. It's all you got the crescent, and then you got the eye. You see that in Islam as well. If you look at Islam, they had the crescent and they had the star thing in the middle. Look through anything that was worshiping Baal throughout history, you're going to see this symbol more times than not. Some kind of crescent with a eye of some sort in the middle. There's a depiction of Nimrod. But this guy here, I love this. Look how big his hand is on the soldier's head. Can y'all see that? Isn't that amazing? That's a big dude. Thank God they were friendly with him, right? But
Can I make one comment?
of course, let me stand close
The
to you. That way
first
Mike will
time
pick
I
you
had
up.
ever seen anything that was weird to me when I used to go to the parade when I was a little boy. You know how they had a little parade, and then there was always a section time in the parade where these guys was riding the golf carts.
Hmm.
Not the golf carts, but the go karts.
Yeah, the Masons.
And they had the tall hats,
Shriners. Yeah.
the Shriners, and they had the crescent and the star.
Hmm.
And I was like, who are these people? I mean, I'm
Hmm.
just a little boy. I didn't know who they were. But I knew that there was a, and then you would ask. Only thing you really knew about them was they built hospitals and they were nice people.
Yeah, and that's the thing right there. They're good people. How many times we hear that? They're good people.
Right.
Y'all know I like to talk about golf. I love golf. The tournament this weekend, I will not watch it. It's the Shriners for Children Hospital tournament. I'm not gonna watch it. Just not. I'm not gonna support it. But yeah, mate, and that's that's the
That's
symbol.
what they when you want to
That's
when
the
they
symbol.
talk about being enlightened. You know, they know
Hmm.
things that we don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
What
and
they're really talking about is that history right
hmm
there. What he's talking about. That's what they believe. That's part of their belief system.
isn't this
In
amazing?
secret.
And you can ride by the. We
Yeah.
got one out there on Highway 1, Aiken Shrine Club. Right on by and try to go in the door.
And
They ain't gonna let you in.
that's not to offend because I know some of y'all probably got family members. I had family members involved in it.
Well, let me get through this real quick. Write your question down, and because I want to run through it, and then we'll have the open discussion, and that way it's more fun then. All right, let's see here. Where was during the time between Babel and Christ, pagans developed the belief that the days grew shorter in early winter because their sun god was leaving them. And when they saw the length of the day increasing, they celebrated by riots, unrestrained feasting, and orgies. This celebration, known as Saturnalia, was named after Saturn, another name for Nimrod. Me and Kristen had a lot of arguments about all this stuff over the last couple of days studying. All right, where's number 6 at? Did I not do a number 6? Man, I can't count, y'all. So other names. This is about the best picture I could find. I tried to clean it up as good as I could. Could everybody read these? Other names for Nimrod. It's tough. Ares. Everybody heard of Ares? Okay. Atlas. Y'all know the story of Atlas. Atlas held the world on his shoulders. And we got the book. It's actually almost prophetic. You ever heard of the book Atlas Shrugged? It's amazing. It's about that thick. Ayn Rand, she wrote it in the 50s, and it kind of describes what we're going through right now. But the premise of the book is, what if Atlas just said, and just let the world fall off his shoulders? Um, Baal, yeah, this really didn't come out good. Chronos, everybody heard of Chronos? Got a time clock at work? Probably called a Chronos machine. Ain't that something? Dionysus. Man, this stuff's crazy. Hermes, Jupiter, Luciferius, Mars, Mercury, Molech. Everybody's heard of Molech, right? They let their children pass through the fire to Molech. It's just another name for Baal. Neptune, Pluto. This is stuff in our solar system. Saturn. Zeus, the father of all gods. So these are, can I go that way? Look at there. I figured out how to work this thing. Yes. More names. Nimrod, the Lord of Heaven. The Israelites would call him Baal. The Phoenicians called him El, and it goes through the different ones. Greece called him Zeus. They got Jupiter for Rome. Egypt, Ra. Everybody, that's the bird-headed guy. You know what I'm talking about? Okay. India, Vishnu. Pastor taught a lot about Vishnu. If you want, I can send you the picture. So you got Vishnu in India. That's the chief deity. Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahman. China, Panku. Scandinavia, Odin. That's what we always. Anyway, I don't keep that one to myself. Tammuz. This is the son. That's the Messiah. Tammuz was the son that he had with his mother. Ain't that's just sick, y'all. Hercules, Dionysus. Everybody's heard of Hercules. Then we get into Semiramis, the Queen of Heaven, Ashtaroth. We've heard of that one. That's you start doing deliverance and you come against something to love of money, things like that. A lot of times you can find Ashtaroth in there. Rhea, Ishtar, Aphrodite, and it just goes on and on. And I'm going, man, this is stuff that you're taught a lot. Your kids are taught a lot of this stuff in school. I know I was. the Greek gods and things like that. Kristen can tell you all of them. And it's things that she learned, it's things that she was interested in, because the devil wants us to become interested in it so that he can, that'll give him a place to go. And let's see here. So this is Ishtar here. Depictions of her. Kind of looks like a mermaid or whatever to me, I thought. But she's got the sun crown on her head. Here's depictions of her while Nimrod's wrestling a lion. She's back there holding his stuff for him. But if you look at her here, this is a more common depiction of her. Got the moon and the sun and the moon on each side of her. Okay. And you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I missed one right there. 9. How many planets they say we have in the solar system? 9. That's a long time ago, y'all. This was before they had telescopes and all that stuff to check all these things out. They knew this. How? Because this is what the gods were telling them. Their gods. Pastor and I were talking about this the other day. Was why do we were talking about it in reference to Halloween, and Christians will say this stuff's not real. They'll say Halloween's not real. It's not really opening. It's not the day that the portal's open, or the veil is thin between us and the evil. But there's reasons, y'all. They've been doing this stuff. Oh, I just Trey Smith that. Did y'all see that? There's reasons, though, they've been doing this for thousands of years. Why? Because it works. Okay? Whether we want to believe it or not, it works. Otherwise, how many of y'all keep doing something that doesn't work? If you keep praying for God to heal you and it doesn't happen, what happens? Your faith starts to dwindle, doesn't it? And there's no way they would still be doing this stuff after thousands of years if it didn't work, if they didn't get results from it. It doesn't make sense. It makes no sense to me. I mean, maybe it makes sense to y'all. I don't know. But so we have to think about those things. And then, oh, that's a good picture. Anybody ever been to the eye doctor? You remember the eye we saw earlier? Yeah. Is that weird? Now, I'm not trying to say anything bad about these people. But I noticed a billboard several months ago, riding up number 1, and I looked and I said, "You got to be kidding me!" We saw that just a little bit ago, didn't we? So it's in our culture, and we don't even know it. How many people ride up down Richland Avenue? Okay, have you ever seen their sign? Has it ever been like, wait a minute, huh? It becomes so common that we miss these things. You know what I mean? Now, am I saying don't go to the eye doctor? If you can't see, go to the eye doctor. I don't know. I might find a different one to go to. I don't know. We took Brandon there. Brandon had a pseudo tumor, false tumor, and it could just about caused him to go blind. Where we take him? Taking ophthalmology. I mean, we have to edit that out. But anyway, yeah, we went to, what was his name? Smith? Yeah, I mean, great. He was awesome. Took care of him perfectly. And since all that, we've prayed over Brandon. Yeah, there you go. He brought what's his name with him? Anybody remember what he was called in India? Vishnu. And so it's just things we have to watch out for. It's in everyday life, but it's get into your Bible. That's all I can say. Get into your Bible and just know where the devil's at. Does that mean you stick your head in the ground and not do anything? No, you just have to know who your enemy is. We always fought wars, and the soldiers in other countries, other nations, they would carry a flag. They had uniforms. They were easy to tell who the enemy was. Now they don't. It's kind of like the caravan coming up from Mexico. Okay, they were in Mexico and they're pelting the police and the military with rocks, breaking people's teeth out, breaking their nose. Right, but you don't see that on the news, but yet it happened. And so our president told our military treat that's a rifle. I mean, it's a deadly weapon. A rock being hurled at you is a deadly weapon. I mean, all it takes 10 pounds of pressure right there and you'll die. And so he said treat it as a weapon, as a rifle. So that means that we can fire on them. And I think it's great, me personally, because you need to know your enemy. And if you can't know your enemy, the one that's throwing the rock, guess what? You're now my enemy. You see what I mean? That's just my personal opinion. But man, I could go on for that for days, but I don't have nothing to do with what we're talking about. Really don't have much to do with the Bible on that one. But the other names for Ishtar are Baal and Nimrod. Horus. Okay, we talked about Horus in ancient Egypt. Sol, that's your sun god. Gilgamesh. Everybody heard of Gilgamesh? That's a Scandinavian kind of. It's another adventure thing. Fortuna would be the name for Ishtar, Jupiter for Nimrod, Ashtaroth, Adonis, uh, Beelzebub. That's what that gets more New Testament. Start to call him Beelzebub, Satan. Jesus called him the god of this world, and Lucifer. Everybody know what translated Beelzebub means? Loosely translated Hebrew is flies, Lord of the Flies. So what I always tell everybody, this happens at our house, happens I think it just about anywhere. You start to see a lot of flies around, and it starts to feel a little cool. Tell the devil to go in the name of Jesus. To get out of here. And it's amazing. More time. I mean, if there's a rotten something outside or something, you're gonna see flies, but just randomly, strange. There's many stories. The one that got us hooked on, Pastor was telling about on it's really supernatural. Gosh, probably 2014. There was a house in Indiana, and the house had like it was possessed. All kind of crazy things happened in the house, like the children walking up the walls and stuff, across the ceiling and back down the other wall. And when the police went there to check out the house, because DSS sent them, the first thing they noticed was all the flies in the house. But there was nothing rotting. There's no way anything could rot. It was the middle of summer and it was frigid in the house. And everything was turned off in the house. There was no air or anything like that on, but yet it was frigid in the house. Why? That's because it's the presence of evil. And so anyway, they talked about the flies, and as they're going through the basement, videoing it, you could hear something whisper to them, "Get out." I'm going, man, that's crazy. So we were hooked. But anyway, that is, yeah, it all goes back. It's the same devil. It's just different names. Does that make sense? And as we go through the next week, it's going to be fun because we're going to talk about things that have been going on recent history in our country, ways that our government and municipalities are just kind of welcoming it in. Even things like this that we don't pay much attention to in our regular life. This like this is they're showing you. This is what I believe. And they'll say, oh, it's just a tradition. The other day I was at a store and the guy's burning incense. It's noon. He's a Hindu. He's burning incense. That's what they do. I said, man, that's giving me a headache. He says, I said, can you put it out? He goes, well, at first I said, what are you burning that for? Oh, it's just tradition. I said, well, can you put it out? It's giving me a headache. No, I can't put it out. Well, if it's just tradition. Why is it that important to you? And that's what they'll say. Oh, it's just tradition from my country. Okay, well, we'll stop doing it. No, I can't do that. Why? Because it has significance to them. Why does it have significance? Because they believe they get results from it. That's why. You know what I mean? And that, I mean, that's what we do. You know, how many of y'all been over to tie your shoes if you got laces in your shoes? It's much easier than holding your foot up, ain't it? I get better results when I lean over. I don't fall. I mean, it kind of goes the same way with that. Teacher's pet right there. That's what I'm talking about. She got a Pepsi, y'all. She got a Pepsi. Okay. What time is it? 10:32. Yes, ma'am. Do you still remember what you had?
Oh, no, there were two things. The first
Okay.
thing was about the Shriners
Mhm.
Hospital. That's where they had told us to take Noah when we weren't sure what was going to happen with his legs.
Oh.
And they were
Hold on. Let me get beside you. I got my microphone right here, and then that way it'll pick up.
Sorry.
I forgot.
They were really, really pushy about amputation.
At the Shriners Hospital.
Yes, they were they're all about, these prosthetics, and they were trying to really go for the amputation more than anything. And they couldn't really give us a logical reason
Lord.
why. So we ended up leaving there because before I knew about any of this, it kind of gave me, it didn't sit well with us. So that kind of makes sense. And then the second thing I noticed about, I think, was it the Ishtar one?
Ishtar.
I think that kind of reminded me a little bit of the Statue of Liberty.
Mm-hmm.
Was that covered before I got in here?
That was we talked about that back in September, but because I had to bail on everybody, so we got Ishtar. Let's see here. There we go. And that's our Statue of Liberty right there.
Yeah.
And I put that to draw the correlation between the two. And it's just things that we don't really realize. I mean, my whole life looked at the Statue of Liberty. I'm like, that's the beacon. That's freedom right there. Right. Well, you think about it, that's why they would go after Baal and the other gods. Why? Because they have freedom. It's like it said that when they would celebrate the winter solstice, it was let's see, the days grew shorter in the early winter because their sun god was leaving them. When they saw the length of the day increasing, they celebrated by riotous, unrestrained feasting and orgies. The celebration is known as Saturnalia, named after Saturn, which is another name for Nimrod. Okay, so they're having a party, So it is, to them, it's unabashed freedom. Remember what Aleister Crowley say? What was the whole of the law? Does anybody remember? Do what thou wilt. It goes all the way back to Nimrod. That philosophy, do what thou wilt. I'm going to do what feels good. Do what you like. I mean, there was even a song in the 90s, do what you like. Do what you like. And it was just talking about do what you like. And it was just repeating over and over and over. I forgot about that till just now. Yes, sir. Hold on, come close. Okay.
More of a, I guess, suggestion rather than a question, but for probably future class sometime. But the significance of not only the winter solstice, but what about the summer solstice, vernal equinoxes, and other things like that?
I like it. So Joe we'll talk about the other solstices and equinoxes like that. The only reason I've shied away from those is because you start to get into the holidays that we celebrate. And so I just said, I don't want to talk about those because we all have opinions, we all have ideas, and
It's offensive.
it's offensive. But I mean, I understand it is. I mean, because I don't know, I still always just celebrate. If you want to celebrate, celebrate. Just it's like we were talking about medicine with somebody yesterday, and herbs, because I won't do medicine. And that's offensive to some people. I know I talked to them at the pharmacy the other day about it. You get your flu shot. I said, you ain't putting nothing in me, man. And they said, well, what about medicine or that you don't take medicine to a headache? I said, no, I don't. I mean, if it's bad enough, we do herbs. Now, but so I told the fellow we were talking to, because he was talking about he was taking a pill to sleep, because he couldn't sleep at night. And I said, I think where you get, I mean, to me, I don't believe in a pill at all because it's going to have a side effect. That's just me. Y'all do what you want. Okay. I mean, this is my conviction. It's not your conviction. But a herb, I know God put the herbs here for us because it wasn't until like the 50s that we actually started using pills. So what did we do? How did civilization make it, for the first, 6,000 and a half years without pills? But anyway, now, do they do great? Yeah, they really do. I mean, you get an infection, hey, you used to go take an antibiotic, it knocks it out. People with flesh-eating bacteria love that there's antibiotics. I'm just telling you that. When I had knee surgery and had a screw put in my knee, I was very happy that I had a pain pill because that really hurt. Well, it hurt. But when I had second surgery, I didn't take them, and I was all right. Isn't that crazy? And I had less pain taking herbs that God put here. But you can take the herb. This is whatever my little bowl of herb, and I decide this is what's going to make me whole. This is. I'm not reverencing God at all with it. You see what I mean? I'm reverencing the herb. And God put the herb here, but what does it say in Romans? Then I started worshiping the created rather than the creator. And so, but you can take that herb that God put here for you, and you can thank Him for it because He did put it here for you. And then you're reverencing God, and you see what I mean? Or you can wait around and see if He heals you. Maybe He'll heal you. I don't know. I mean, I had an aunt that died with breast cancer. She was waiting on God to heal her. She didn't take medicine. She died quickly, but she didn't drag it out. Maybe that is a blessing. I don't know. But that's where my feeling goes with herbs. Yes, sir. Well, I gotta get close to you.
At the at the beginning of this, you were talking about they embraced Baal and all that, and we still see people doing that today. But I had a friend
That's too close.
He's a minister, Church of God minister, and that we hung with a lot up in Oshkosh and different places. And in fact, he's such a loving, kind guy. He gave us 2 cars.
Darn.
And but you could see this underneath thing, things that he would say or different things he would do. Long story short, for whatever reason, last night I felt like I had unfriended him on Facebook because of some things. But last night I went and looked at his Facebook. He now flies the homosexual flag out in front of his house, and him and his wife were at the Planned Parenthood holding up the clergy for Planned Parenthood signs or clergy love Planned
Really?
Parenthood. And you know, in Ohio, there's a big clergy for Planned Parenthood. So you think um, the little things don't really matter that much, but there's a perfect case of someone that was on fire for the Lord, doing
Yeah.
things for the Lord, and now is completely the opposite side.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing.
It is. It's absolutely amazing. And see, this is how it works for me, y'all. I can always draw an analogy to golf. Ain't that something? Let's see if my pen works. Y'all see that? So this is your hole. Okay, this is where you're trying to make your putt. You're putting from here. It's just a straight line putt. If you get off just that much at the beginning, that putt's going to keep going this way. You see what I mean? And it's just, you were just a fraction off. But if you get it lined up straight, it'll go. You just the ball is only this big. The hole's 4¼ inches. So there's plenty of room to get the ball in the hole. But you just get that little bit off, and the further you go, the further off you get. And it's like that, what you're talking about there with that pastor. And I mean, I know I've done it. And that's why we say, always, definitely before you study stuff like this, always forbid the transference of the spirit. I had to get a little clean up the other day. Something I was reading. I don't remember what it was, but it came out. But always, it dilutes you. These things, and to me, that's why it's so important to know your enemy, because you get around family, you get around friends that don't share, they're not yoked with you, and next thing you know, your children are controlling and dictating to you what you need to do spiritually. Does that even make sense? That don't make sense, does it? What's the Bible say? Does it say, children, train up your parents in the way they should go, for this is right? No, it doesn't say that. You see what I mean? And with parents, family members, if they are pulling you away from God, you see what I mean? I mean, get away from it. I mean, just don't hate them. Don't be nasty to them. But, hey, I can't be yoked with that. This is kind of getting weird. Anybody got anything else? Y'all looking at me like I'm crazy. I want to keep y'all for 4 more minutes. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I got to get close.
I was just wondering, is incense always bad?
Incense?
Yes.
I don't know. Is incense always bad? See, that's a good one. I would say yes, because I don't really like fragrances. I don't like strong fragrances at all. They give me a headache, make my throat feel tight. I would research the company. You know what I mean? Who produces the incense and what were they produced? What was the goal of why they were produced? If they were produced as sacrifice to God, as a sacrament to their God, then yeah, I would stay away from it. But research it. Yes, sir.
Well, what I was thinking, when they burnt incense in the Old Testament, didn't that represent the prayers of the saints?
Very, very much. Representing the prayer of the saints. And that's what I say. Check out, if you'll burn incense, check out and see who's producing them. What are they used for?
What's your motive?
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. Where's your heart? You know what I mean? But it can very well open the door. I mean, it's like essential oils. I like essential oils. And there's a company called doTERRA that sells, is one of the biggest ones in the nation, in the world. It's a Mormon company. So I mean,
the whole concept about the motive. Now, I think you have to be careful about that, because it's just like when you get into stuff that's very spiritual, and when you get into worship, whether it's worshiping God or Satan, don't get all caught up into what your motives are. You need to avoid the act altogether.
And get caught up in what their motives are.
If God tells you to burn incense, that's one thing. But if you wanted to start burning incense, it's just like you can worship something and you don't really know what you're doing. But if Satan tells you to hold your hands up and wave them, and you start doing it, and you don't even know why you're doing it or who's telling you to do it, that's still worship unto Satan. So you got to look at it that way. So you just got to be very careful about when you get into that.
That is, yeah. And it's what's your motive? What's their motive? Yes, ma'am.
I have the plate that you just warm up, the thing just to make the house smell good. I'm just trying to keep the house down. You can do that, or you can't do that.
I don't know. What I say is,
I'm doing is keeping our house. I got sneakers.
well, yeah. Well, it's like this. I mean, think about let's think about like perfumes. Let's take it down that road. Personally, I can't stand them. people like them. So that doesn't. But the funniest thing ever happened to me was somebody telling me to quit smoking when I used to smoke because of the smell of the smoke bothered them. But they had on half a bottle of perfume, and I was out of order to ask them not to wear the perfume. It's kind of weird. But anyway, Britney Spears, that girl needs prayer. I mean, what's no, what's the nice word to call her what she is?
Just don't say anything. There's a nice word.
A total Jezebel, she harlot, total harlotry. There you go. So purchasing her perfume and cologne, would that open you up for anything?
Right.
I would say so. I mean, I would say it would. I don't know. I mean, I don't know the clothes I'm wearing. Did it get, was these people worshiping an idol while they made my clothes? I don't know. So I just pray over them. Cancel it. I mean, we have what's the Bible say? Anything that we bind on earth is bound in heaven. Anything we loose on earth is loose in heaven. So loose the curse on it. So you can go that route. But is your faith enough to keep it loose? Yes, ma'am.
It was just like these perfumes that were at the store.
Mm-hmm.
They were, stuff like jealousy. And I told my mom, I said, don't buy that.
Yeah, but that was the one when I was growing up. The biggest one for men was obsession. Obsession. I'm going. That's the demon.
There's somebody was telling me about chips that's called something like they got voodoo chips. But maybe that's what it was.
Voodoo chips.
Voodoo chips.
That's that. Wait, that's that. They have energy drinks called Voodoo Juice. Hey, all this stuff, and it's like you look at there's even a beer that the Miller distributor puts out, it's Miller, and it's called Oculto. It's a Mexican beer. It's got pictures of skulls on it, and I'm going, and people buy it. I'm going, you don't know what are you doing? But anyway, and they go, man, you're paranoid. Yeah, it's just, you're just crazy. That's what they tell me. So anyway, that's all right though. I'll be all right. I'll just keep. Hey, there's Tower of Babel. Man, I missed that. Y'all don't get to see that today. Anyway, so anyway, knowing your enemy, and you see they would just toss the baby up there in the fire. So anyway, let's close it out, and because y'all got excited today, so we went 1 extra minute. So here we go. Father, in the name of Jesus, Lord, I thank you for today. I thank you for just making it plain, God. I thank you for showing us who our enemy is. I thank you for just all that you do for us. Thank you for what you're going to do, God. I can't wait to see the miracles you perform. Bless our pastor as he brings the word, God, and for the folks here at church, God.